When I first began researching African traditional religions, I expected facts. I found resistance. Not from elders, not from priests, but from the world I had been educated in. In the West, and even in parts of modern Africa, these religions are framed as myths, superstition, fetish, or devil worship. But every time I sat with a traditional priest, listened to an elder speak, or read the work of an African philosopher, I saw clarity. A divine architecture, a sacred order, a code of ethics more ancient than empire. This film is a deconstruction of ignorance, of colonial distortions, and of silence. And it begins with the question, what is African religion really? To understand why African religions are misunderstood, we must return to the 15th century, when the European imagination collided violently with African reality. For explorers and missionaries, Africa was not a continent of civilizations. It was the dark continent. The religions they found did not resemble Christianity or Islam. There were no churches, no printed books, no centralized priesthood. So they concluded, these were not real religions. This was not innocent misunderstanding, it was a strategy of domination. To colonize the body, you must first colonize the soul. And so, African deities were renamed idols. Sacred rituals became witchcraft. Spiritual leaders became sorcerers. This dehumanization was not just cultural, it was theological. According to Dr. Jacob Olupona, African traditional religion is not static folklore. It is a living system with rules, rites, cosmology, and moral law. The word fetish, a weapon of language. In the 1400s, Portuguese traders used the word fetico, meaning charm or artificial magic, to describe sacred African objects. Over time, this word morphed into fetish and took on new meaning: irrational, childlike attachment to objects. The sacred iron staff of Ogun? A fetish. The talking drum used to summon spirits? A fetish. But in truth, these were not objects of worship. They were vessels, like holy water, crucifixes, or relics in other faiths. The fetish label was never about African beliefs. It was about stripping them of dignity. It turned religion into novelty, and culture into curiosity. One god, many paths. Contrary to popular belief, most African religions are not polytheistic. They are monotheistic with a layered hierarchy. The supreme creator, known by many names, is often considered too vast, too pure, too transcendent for direct human contact. The Yoruba worship Olajimere. The Akan revere Nyam. The Dinka call upon Nyalik. But how does one relate to an infinite creator? Through intermediaries. Orishas, Ubuzum, Bodo. These are not gods. They are divine forces, custodians of nature and morality. In Catholicism, saints intercede. In Islam, prophets teach. In African religions, spiritual entities guide. This is not confusion, it is theological complexity. As Dr. Bolaji Idowu once said, African religion believes in one supreme being, but approaches him through his works. African traditional religions are not concerned with salvation from sin. They are concerned with balance, order, and right living. Among the Yoruba, this is expressed in Iwa Pele, gentle character. In ancient Egypt, Ma'at symbolizes truth, justice, and balance. Among the Igbo, the idea of chi reflects the personal divine spark within each individual. These religions ask not, do you believe in God? But rather, are you in harmony with your ancestors? Are you treating others with dignity? Are you living your destiny? Morality is not imposed, it is inherited. There is a Fulani proverb that says, the one who forgets the past breaks the bridge to the future. In many African cultures, death is not an end, it is a transformation. Ancestors are not ghosts, they are guardians. Their wisdom continues in the wind, the rivers, the wombs of women, and the dreams of the living. To pour libation is not to worship the dead, it is to acknowledge lineage, to keep memory alive. As Dr. Wole Soyinka said, the African world is a continuum, there is no final rupture between the living and the dead. Ancestors embody justice. They remind us that our actions ripple through generations. Despite colonization, slavery, and suppression, African religions endured. They crossed oceans with shackled bodies and free spirits. They survived behind Catholic saints. They disguised themselves in rhythm and ritual. In Haiti, Ogun became St. James. In Brazil, Yemoja became Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception. But today there is no need to hide. Across Africa and the diaspora, a new generation is reclaiming its spiritual roots. This is not nostalgia. It is restoration. This is not just about religion. It is about dignity. It is about healing. African traditional religions have been mocked, demonized, and erased, but they were never lost. They lived in rhythm, in proverb, in silence, and now they rise again. If we are to understand Africa, truly, we must begin by listening, not to colonial textbooks, but to the griots, the priests, the ancestors. To remember is to resist. To reclaim is to restore. Some great thinkers like Dr. Sophie Oluwole, Nigerian philosopher who translated Yoruba Ifa as a system of logic, not myth. Dr. Jacob Olupona, Harvard scholar emphasizing African religion as civic and ethical. Professor Nkiru Nzegwu, Igbo feminist thinker linking religion to gender and justice. Dr. Molefi Keet Asante, Afrocentric scholar asserting African religion as valid intellectual heritage, reminds us that African religion is not waiting to be validated. It has always been valid. What it seeks now is recognition, respect, and return. The call to remember. Africa's oldest religions were never lost. They were hidden, misnamed, maligned, but they live in story, in drum, in silence. This is not about rejecting other faiths. It is about remembering one's own. African spirituality is not an alternative religion. It is a lens, a worldview, a path. And in a world aching for balance and belonging, perhaps the oldest wisdom still has something to teach us. Honor the ancestors. Question the narrative. Reclaim the sacred.